Hello and welcome back to another episode. And in this episode, we're going to talk about auto names and counters. You can apply this to almost any element in Sparx. This is primarily good for requirements development, but is also great for prepending steps to things like activities. However, before getting started, make sure that your team understands and has a plan on using and managing auto names and counters. Always baseline your versions before you get started. That'll keep you out of trouble. If you make a mistake or mess things up, you can always fall back to the previous version. So let's get started. Before we get started, let's ask, what is auto naming and counters? So in the settings tab, we go to settings. And I'm going to demonstrate this slower, but when you're in here, you're choosing an element. We're going to hit R to just get down to a requirement. When you're choosing the element and you're applying a prefix, a counter, and a suffix, you must apply on creation. This is very important, so pay attention as we demonstrate this. This feature is important. You can add an auto name to the primary name of the element or the alias. We're not going to focus on alias in this episode. We're just going to focus on the primary name. Save and close, and you're ready to go. So here I am in a blank diagram. It is set the requirements right here. That's the diagram type. And we've got the toolbar up and ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the settings tab. We're going to go to settings in the reference data panel. We're going to select auto names and counters. This dialog box comes up. We basically are going to hit R for requirement. We're going to go down to requirement and then stereotype. I am going to use EAQ profile for business requirements because that's what I'm creating. Then I'm going to hit OK. We're going to start with 1. And what we have here is business rec : space. The counter starting at 1, we don't believe we're going over 999, so we have a 3-digit placeholder. And then we want a space after the colon. So when we're putting in the name manually for this requirement, that will be populated. Most importantly, make sure that you have apply on creation checked and save and close. Let's add in a requirement. I'm going to bring in a business requirement out of extended requirements because that's what I configured. And there we go. We have biz rec : space, the counter : it could be a dash and then a space. So I can start typing in something that's there. Let's bring in another one. Not requirement. Don't make that mistake. We configured for business extended requirements. There's 2, there's 3. Let's bring in a functional requirement. Nothing was set for it. Comes in with a default naming. Let's bring in a feature out of the upper tool. Nothing is configured. So if you configured your functional requirements, it would start numbering those in the same diagram. And if you configured your features, it would name the auto name and number those for you. Let's do another one. This time I have a blank diagram. It is activity diagram type. I have the activity toolbar to the left, and there's nothing in the namespace for these. So we're going to go to settings again. We are going to go to settings here, and we're going to go to auto name and counter. And this time we're going to choose activity as the element type, no stereotype. And we're going to use the prefix step : space and a counter. We're going to start at 1. I'm going to change that to 1. And then I'm going to go a space, a dash, and a space. And then I'm going to make sure that I've got apply on creation checked, and I'm going to save and close. Now, when I bring in an activity, I have step, : space, a counter, space, dash, and then space. So I can set everything up. I'm working on something. I know that there's going to be 5 steps, and I can just lay the elements out and I can start just configuring them as we're working together and talking about these. So now naturally you're going to have a start, an initial, and an end when you're doing an activity diagram. So we have an initial up here, and then we're going to have a final, either a final flow or a final. Just for this demonstration, I'm going to drop these in. So now we're ready for this activity diagram, and we can start mapping in our associations. We can start putting in our intelligence under the activity, and we can start naming these, whatever the activity is. Now here's a pro tip. Basically, when I'm laying out or collaborating in a call or offline with stakeholders, I will go to switch view specification and save. Thank you very much. And it will lay out my steps in order because I'm using that. And then I can come in here and I can put in the names, and then I can start putting in intelligence. We can go through status, whether it's still proposed or we're over with the call. We're going to change the status to validated, or we're going to change the status to approved. So it's really fast to work in switch views. You can always go back out and everything's automatically set for you. Now this next part is extremely important. And before you get started, make sure you have a communication plan in place, that you're collaborating with your stakeholders and you're letting them know we're going to be using auto naming and numbering and counters, and that everyone must follow whatever those practices and processes and conventions are. So when you're setting up your practices, you want to designate stakeholders that are chosen to do specific roles. And you need to make sure that you're assigning them to specific elements within their role. So the requirements engineer is responsible for requirements elements, and the architects might be responsible for class elements, component elements, and so on. And the next most important thing is that you're telling them that when they're coming in back from a break or a day off or what have you, that before they start dropping elements in, they go in and see where the last person left off if they're working on the same elements. So it's pretty hard when you're on different, your activities in this particular example may be in different areas. You're leaving off on activity number 5 and your next one is 6, and they pick that up and they didn't know where you left off. Your activities might be in different packages or namespaces under different scenarios. I can go on and on, but you have a communication plan in place. So the stakeholders understand the other stakeholders that are working on activities. They're using auto naming and counters within their elements, that you're keeping everything correct. Because if you've got to go back and redo everything and you just did 10, 50, 100 elements and they're conflicting with other activity conventions, naming conventions, you're going to be very upset. So make sure everyone's communicating and connected with each other on their roles and responsibilities when they're auto naming and numbering. Now, another confusing point to modelers when they're getting started is understanding the difference between auto naming and numbering that you find here in settings. And when you go to design under manage, you have something called level numbering. We'll talk about auto naming option here in the design tab in just a moment. But what I'm going to do, I'm in this package, is turn on level numbering. Watch what happens. So now it has added a number that's here that's not going to show up in the diagram, the elements that are here. It's only for browser. So just be cognizant of the difference between design, manage, level numbering. I'm going to turn it off. and what auto naming and numbering in the settings tab is. Now, what if you've already started writing your requirements for your project? You could have, there's just 5 here, but you could have 50 or 500, and they're not uniquely numbered. Of course, each one of them has their own global unique ID, but the requirements themselves are not uniquely numbered. Now, in this particular case, these are generic requirement types. And what we're going to do is go to the Design tab, Manage, and select Auto Naming. We get this dialog box, Apply Auto Naming to Elements. Now, because requirement is already configured, if I hit R and go down here to requirement, it's already configured. The name, rec, colon, space, a counter, 3 digits, space, dash, space for the suffix. You don't have to have apply on creation when you're doing this. We're going to hit close. Now let's talk about the options that you have here as we're going forward, and we'll demonstrate each one of them. So we're in the namespace where the requirements are. It sees 5 requirement types in here that are available for configuration. We can hit the drop down. We can either select all of them, clear, select all of them here, or we can select the ones that we want to auto number. And in some cases, you might have had a session where there's a dozen or 2 dozen elements and you validated half of them. You may want to go through and pick the ones you want to number, and it will set them in an order. Notice here, naming preview. This is what it's going to look like when it's done, each one of them. Let's go ahead and clear. And we're going to pick the first one and the third one. So notice the preview. So this one's going to be auto named rec 1 and this one rec 2. Now let's go down and talk about update name or update alias. Again, we're not going to focus on alias, but you may want to just name your alias and leave your name whatever it is. And then you can turn on, I've shown you how to do this, you can turn on use alias when available. It's kind of a good idea when you want to separate or you're not sure what this one right here, well, it's not a business requirement, it's a function requirement, so you're not going to check it. So with that said, let's look at each one of the update name. So the first one is we're going to prefix auto name to the current name. So we've already currently named them. And what this is going to do is it's going to add this number to the name. If we go down here, overwrite name with auto name, if I select that, now look at the preview. It's just rec 1 and rec 2. The name is not there. This one's interesting in that move the current name to notes and apply the auto name. And nothing changed. It's going to just go with the configured auto name, and it's going to put the name down in the notes. And then there's no change. So no change at all, right? But we're going to choose what we've already selected here. And if you have requirements that are in sub packages, it will actually look at all the sub packages underneath it and include it in your selection. But in this case, we don't have that. We're just going to hit OK. So you can see here that for these, it numbered. For these, it did not. Now, once you do this, there's no undo. So if you just did 20 or 50 requirements and went, oh, that's not what I wanted to do, there's no going back. It is very important that before you make any changes, and I didn't do this on purpose, we're going to Control Alt and B and bring up baseline. Create a baseline version. So new baseline, we're going to start at 0.01. We're going to leave the date and time in there. We're going to hit OK, and there we go. Now we have a baseline. Now what we're going to do is in the Design tab, in the Package panel, Manage, we're going to go back to Auto Naming. So there's our 5 that it sees within this namespace. These have already been numbered for us. We're going to check the ones that have not been numbered, and we're going to move current name to notes, apply auto name. So you're just going to see the auto name, and then we're not going to change anything else. We're just going to hit OK. Now let's open up the first one. So what it did was it numbered this one 4, this one 5. That wasn't our order. We wanted this one to be 1, this one to be 4, and this one to be 5. But that's it, auto numbered them that way. But let's open up this one. So you'll see that the name, the requirement name, was moved down into notes. This is interesting when you're brainstorming with the team and you're coming up with what you believe the name or description. It's a short name for the requirement, but you don't want to lose it. You want to come back in here and give it a clearer name or a different name. So this option here works great for that. I don't think you're going to go in there with all your requirements just rec, and then it's too ambiguous. You can't understand what these requirements are for. But we just made a mistake, and we did not want to do that. Now, of course, yeah, you could spend the time to move this one back up to here and do that for the ones that you changed, but oh my goodness, what a waste of time. Instead, what you can do is we're going to select the namespace that we're focused on, Control Alt and B, and bring up the baseline, and we are going to restore to this baseline. So hit restore. It's just warning you that, hey, you're getting ready to wipe out anything you did here. You might want a baseline again if you wanted to fall back to it. But instead, we don't care. We're going to go back. There, it's done. And then when we go and open this, we are back to where we were when we baselined. All right, so we've just come back. And the first thing we're going to do before we start working, we've already numbered this one. We didn't number this one. We numbered this one. We didn't number this one. So, and then we numbered this one. What we're going to be doing is numbering these two. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to settings, auto names and counters, and we're using general or generic requirements. I'm going to hit R to go down the list. I'm going to choose requirement. We're going to check our counter. In this particular case, I or someone has done something else with general requirements. And there's lots of reasons. This is why I use the extended requirements, a little bit more control, especially if you have assigned stakeholders. But my next number is what? 1, 2, 3, 4. So the next number I want to use is 4. I'm just going to change it. I'm not going to use anything else. Because I'm using design and changing, I don't need to have this checked. Doesn't matter if it is checked or not, but I'm going to uncheck it, save and close. Then we're going to go back to design. We're going to go to manage, and we're going to go to auto naming. So we have our 5 that are in focus, and we can see what's been done and what hasn't. So these 3 have been numbered. These have not. So I'm going to check. I'm going to go this way, mode and hawk. So let's see here. So I'm just going to check them in this order here, right? Prefix. I can see the numbers assigned, what's being assigned to each one of them. Let me uncheck them. I don't want that one checked. I'm going to make this one the next number 4. I'm going to make this one the next number 5. See how I can control the sequence? Uncheck, go the other direction. This one becomes 4. This one becomes 5. So using this method, you can control what the order is that you want to auto name. And then we're ready to go. And we're just going to hit OK. Now these have been done. And if I come over here, I can see the numbers have been changed over in the browser. And if I want, because it's sticking with me, I can order these any way that I want, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to leave that totally up to you. Let's see here. Go to layout, sort down, align them. Now I'm ready to print a report if I want these requirements. So normally I don't include this diagram. I go to diagram and exclude. When I'm printing my reports, I don't need to see the graphic anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's up to you whether you want to clean that up. So let's wrap up now. Thanks very much for watching. I hope this was useful for you. Make sure you're baselining, play around, probably in your test environment, not with your real project. If you're not familiar with this, have a good plan in place. Make sure everyone's following the same practices. Baseline, baseline, baseline. Have versions and backups. So if things get messed up, you can save time and get back to where you are. If you have any questions or concerns, post comments down below and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. And until that next episode, happy modeling.